How many of you love the word today?
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. 1 John. Some of you guys got a sneak peek of this text if you're in the Facebook group. First John chapter 4. First John chapter 4. In verse 7, starting in verse 7. 1 John 4 and 7. If you have it, let me know that you have it by saying amen.
Amen.
And it reads, Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God, and whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. In this the love of God was made manifest among us, that God sent his only Son into the world, so that we might live through him. In this is love. Not that we have loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the propitiation for our sins. For the next few moments, I want to talk to you from the subject, when love comes to life. When love comes to life.
Amen.
Scholar and theologian R.C. Sproul once said, in the New Testament, love is more of a verb than a noun. It has more to do with acting than with feeling. The call to love is not so much a call to a certain state of feeling as it is to a quality of action. In other words, Sproul is saying biblical love, real biblical love, it doesn't just talk, it walks.
Right.
He's saying that real biblical love is not just a hidden emotion. Real biblical love is a deliberate action. To love someone or something is to act on behalf of the thing or the one you profess to love. And it's important that we remember this kind of biblical love, because we live in a day and age where the word love is overly sentimentalized, and in a lot of cases, it's minimized. We live in a culture that relegates this word love to being a syrupy, sappy emotion that is more felt rather than seen. And this is evidenced by a song that my senior saints might not be familiar with. My seasoned saints might not be aware of this song. But my younger people that are in the audience today, the younger members are going to be well aware of this song, because it was a chart topper. Some of the senior saints might be aware of this song too. Let me not forget that. But the song is called Best Part.
That's a jam.
And the lyrics of this song really convey this sentimental love that I'm speaking of this morning. Because the lyrics come in and they say, I just want to see how beautiful you are. You know that I see it. I know you're a star. Where you go, I follow. No matter how far. If life is a movie, then you're the best part. Look at my daughter singing it as I'm saying it. And then the memorable part of the song comes in, and the singer says, if you love me, won't you say something? If you love me, won't you? If you love me, won't you say something? Now notice the request of the song is, if you love me, won't you say something? Rather than, if you love me, won't you do something? Implicit in the lyrics of this song is this idea that all you have to do in order to prove your love is to say it. But those of us that have been around the block, those of us that have lived a little bit, know that it's easy to say something and not really mean what you say. Is there anybody in here that can say, I'm not so much worried about what you have to say. I want you to show what you're saying. Because it's in the showing what you're saying that the rubber meets the road. And so this holiday season, this Christmas, we really ought to turn away from this sentimental, syrupy false love that the world conveys. If you have kids this morning, then you've seen this kind of love.
Yes, sir.
Because what happens every single Christmas? They come downstairs. They open that gift that they've been begging for since August. When they open it, their eyes light up. And they look at you and they say, I love it. Then 3 months later, I know I'm not the only one with kids in here. That same gift that they claimed to love on December 25th is now in the back of a closet somewhere, half broken and forgotten about. It's because when they opened the gift on December 25th, they mistook fondness and excitement for love. And so this holiday season, we need to be conscious of this false love that the world wants us to embrace. And we need to instead look at the way the scriptures talk about love. Because in our text this morning, we see a love so powerful. Well, in our text this morning, we see a love so amazing that it literally changed the course of human history.
Yes, sir.
This morning we find ourselves in the book of 1 John. Now, a while back in Bible study, I went through the book of 1 John verse by verse by verse. And if you were here and you were a part of that study, then you'll know that the Apostle John spends a whole lot of time in 1 John focusing on the topic of love.
Right.
He focuses on this topic of love a whole lot because he wants the audience whom he's writing to experience deeper fellowship with God. And he wants them to experience deeper fellowship with one another. So he knows that in order for that to happen, they're going to have to push past their petty selfishness. They're going to have to push past their pride. And they're going to have to stir up affection for God and for one another in order to be a more loving community. And it's with this in mind that the Apostle John in 1 John chapter 4, verse 7 gives this admonition. Let's read it again, verse 7. The Apostle John says, Beloved, let us love one another. For love is from God. The King James Version says love is of God. And whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Right here in verse 7, the Apostle John conveys both the essence and the evidence of love. When the Apostle John says that love is from God, or love is of God. What he's saying is that true love, true biblical love, true love, real love, has its origins in God.
Yes, sir.
He's saying, Macedonia, that if you have love in your heart, you did not gain that love by works. You did not gain that love because you earned it. You did not gain that love because you inherited it. You gained that love because it was put there by God. It is from God. It was given to you by God as a gift. And when we walk in love, we're only able to walk in love because God, who is love, communicated this love to us. And so when John says, whoever loves has been born of God and knows God, he's saying, Macedonia, one of the clearest signs that someone is born again, one of the clearest signs that someone has experienced the new birth, it's not seen in how loud you shout. It's not seen in how many years you come to church. It's not seen in how many offices you hold. It's not seen in how well you preach and you pray. But the Apostle John is saying that the sign that you've really been born of God is if you love one another. And the text is compelling me. It's pushing me to tell you this. That if you know how to preach and pray, and if you know how to speak in King James English, and if you hold a whole bunch of offices in church, if you do all of that, but you have not love, then you might be full of something, but it ain't the Holy Ghost. Because to be full of the Holy Ghost is to have this fruit called love. And to be full of the Holy Ghost is to be compelled to love those that are hard to love. To be full of the Holy Ghost is to be compelled to love those even though they are unlovable. Now, I know it's hard. I know it's tough. Macedonia, I'm your pastor. And I have difficulty loving people all the time. Sometimes I'd rather slap people rather than love people. But what credit is it to me if I love God, whom I can't see, but I don't even love my brother or sister whom I can't see? Touch your neighbor and tell them, if you got the Holy Ghost, I ought to see it in the way you love me. Don't tell me you got the Holy Ghost and you're mean and nasty. If you got the Holy Ghost, it'll come out in how you love. The Apostle John continues in verse 8, and he says, anyone who does not love does not know God. Verse 8 is really a restatement of what he says in verse 7, just using different wording. It's tight, but it's right. He's saying if you don't possess and display love, it's probably because you don't know God. And then he goes on to say why that's the case. He says anyone who does not love does not know God. Why? Because God is love. He is love. Now let's unpack that. What does it mean for God to be love? What does it mean? That statement that God is love. What does it mean? Well, love is an attribute of God.
Yes, it is.
Love is a core aspect of God's character. Love is a fundamental essence of his person. God doesn't just possess love. God doesn't just feel love. God doesn't experience love. He is love. Let me just sidebar right here because that statement, this fact that God is love, is encouraging to me. And so let me sidebar real quick and let me encourage every child of God in here, because some of you came in here going through hell.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Some of you came in here in a test and a trial, in a fight for your life. Some of you came in here with a dark cloud over your head. Some of you came in here with a heavy burden on your shoulders. Let me tell you why this statement that God is love is encouraging. And here it is. Because God is love, everything he does is loving.
Yes, sir.
If you are a child of God and you find yourself in a test, you are in a test out of love. If you are a child of God and you find yourself in a dark moment, you are in a dark moment not because God has left you. You are in a dark moment because God loves you. If you are a child of God and you find yourself in a trial, you are in that trial not because God has deserted you. You are in that trial out of love. Well, will you help me preach this message? And turn to your neighbor and tell your neighbor, neighbor, don't fret and don't worry. You are here because of love. It is love that has brought you to this. It is love that has taken you through this. It is love. God has not abandoned you. God has not turned his back on you. God has not forgotten about you, because God is love. Everything he does to you and everything he does through you is loving. He just loves you. And sometimes he gives you what's called tough love. Oh, I know my mamas in here know something about tough love. It's not that you didn't love your son. It's not that you didn't love your daughter. But sometimes you had to whoop them. Sometimes you had to discipline them. Not because you hate them, but because you love them. Pull on your neighbor and just say, it's just tough love, baby. It's just tough love. Whom he loves, he chases. He's not turning his back on you. He just loves you. Because God is love. Everything he does is loving. When I'm smiling, he's loving. When I'm crying, he's loving. When the bank account is full, he's loving. And when I'm negative in my account, he's loving. When I got a car in my parking lot, he's loving. And when I got to walk my happy self to the store, he's loving. In whatever circumstance. Because God is love, everything he does is loving. But to put the introduction to this sermon in view, I have to ask the question, what good is love if you don't see it?
Say that time.
What good is love if it's not made tangible? There's a view of God, a detestable view of God, that was pretty popular in the 18th century. As a matter of fact, a lot of the founding fathers of this country held this view, and it's a view called deism. Deism. And deism says, yes, God exists. However, God does not have any interaction with creation.
Come on.
Deism says God created the universe and he created the world, but then he left it, put it on autopilot, and he does not engage or have any interaction with the world or the people that are in the world. Deism is a lie. Deism is a disgusting lie. Because here's the reality. If deism were true, then we would have no reason to rejoice in the fact that God is love. Because it might be true, but if the deist God is real, then that means that although he's love, his love is locked away. And I will never experience it. But see, verse 9 of our text obliterates this deist view of God. And verse 9 reminds us that we do not serve an absentee father. Because verse 9 comes in and it says, in this, the love of God was made manifest among us. That God sent his only son into the world. Look at me. Let me unpack this. The incarnation is when God came to this earth as a babe in Bethlehem named Jesus. And the incarnation, God coming to this earth as man, the incarnation, Macedonia, was really a demonstration. Come on. Macedonia, you don't mind if I unpack this? Just give me about 5 minutes. I got to unpack this. The word demonstration means the action or process of showing the existence or truth of something by giving proof or evidence. Let me try to make it plain. When you go into Costco and you see the people selling blenders, they'll tell you how wonderful the blenders are. They'll tell you how amazingly the blenders chop and pulsify. They'll tell you how much of a bargain the blenders are. But you ain't thinking about buying those blenders until they put their money where their mouth is and demonstrate it. You want to see if the blender can actually do all the things that they told you to do. And it isn't until they demonstrate what they're saying that you buy into what it is that they said. Well, can I tell you that since the dawn of creation, Yahweh God has been telling humanity that he loves us. He placed the sun and the moon in the sky. And every time they rise and set, and we're privileged enough to see them, he's telling us he loves us. And when the waters rain on the crops, yet don't flood the earth, and you see the rainbow in the sky, the rainbow is a sign of God telling us he loves us. And when he made the earth close enough to the sun to keep us warm, but not so close that it would burn us up, he said it that way because he loves us. And since the dawn of creation, God has been telling us in creation that he loves us. But in the little town in Bethlehem, over 2,000 years ago, the God who constantly told us about his love decided that he would demonstrate it. And how did he demonstrate it? Well, I'll tell you that he could have sent somebody else to tell you I love you on his behalf. He could have sent an ambassador to tell you I love you on his behalf. He could have sent an angel to tell you I love you on his behalf. He could have sent an Old Testament prophet come back to life to tell you I love you on his behalf. But when God got ready to demonstrate everything he told us, he said, I'm going to step out of glory, wrap myself in flesh, and I'm going to tell him myself. So every time you see this nativity, this is God saying to us, I'm here because I love you. I left heaven and came to earth because I love you. I left the riches of glory to come down and dwell as a peasant because I love you. I wish you just touch your neighbor and say, neighbor, Christ is the demonstration of the Father's love towards you. Yeah, aren't you so glad that we serve a God that doesn't just talk about it? Aren't you glad that we serve a God that is about it? We serve a God that says, I'm not just going to say it, but I'm going to show it. And I'm not just going to send somebody else to show it. I'm going to come myself. Christ's coming wasn't just a demonstration of love. it was also a declaration of life.
Yes.
Because look at verse 9 again. Don't read the Bible faster than you ought to. You'll miss more than you catch. Look at verse 9 again. It says, in this the love of God was made manifest among us, that God sent his only Son into the world so that we might live through him. Macedonia, Christ's coming was a display of love which produced a dispatch of life. Because he is, and because he came, I now and you now have life. And I'm not talking about life in the sense of I'm breathing and I'm seeing and I'm hearing. I'm talking about life in the sense of I'm spiritually alive. I now have a relationship with the Father. I now have a hope and an eternal home. The psalmist would sing it like this. I was sinking deep in sin, far from the peaceful shore, very deeply stayed within, sinking to rise no more. But somebody ought to get glad. But the master of the sea heard my despairing cry. From the waters lifted me. Now safe am I. Now everybody ought to be able to sing this part. How many can testify? Love lifted me. Love lifted me. When nothing else could help. Touch your neighbor and tell them, love lifted me. It lifted me when I couldn't lift myself. It lifted me when money couldn't lift me. It lifted me when friends couldn't lift me. It lifted me when my degree couldn't lift me. How the love did it. Love did it. Love came and lifted me. This inbreaking of God into the world as Jesus is a dispatching of life to those who were formerly dead. Dead in trespasses and sin. And Macedonia, I didn't want to keep you too long after 1 p.m. But I just want to let you know that as we continue in the text, the Apostle John doesn't just want us to rejoice in his coming, but he also wants us to rejoice in his dying. Because look at what verse 10 says. In this is love. Not that we have loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the propitiation for our sins. And that's a big old word. Propitiation. And you won't appreciate the word propitiation unless you affirm and agree that God is angry. Yeah, God is angry. You know what he's angry about? He's angry about sin. Because he's a holy God. He's a holy God who can't have nothing to do with sin. And oh yeah, I know we live in a society that likes to think that God is just some happy-go-lucky hippie that runs around passing out flowers and cupcakes. But God is angry. He's angry. He's angry with sin. And as a result of sin, he will punish. There will be consequences. As a matter of fact, there's something called the wrath of God. How many of you know that there is such thing as the wrath of God? I know we don't like to talk a whole lot about the love of God, but you'll never understand the word propitiation until you acknowledge that there is the wrath of God. And all who are in sin are under his wrath. And there is often a question that's asked by a love-struck woman to her potential suitor. she'll ask, if you love me, would you take a bullet for me? Because she wants to know if your love would provoke you to stand in front of something that is meant to take me out. Well, see, this word propitiation presents this reality that there was a bullet coming towards all of us. And that bullet was called the wrath of God. It was coming quick and it was coming hot. And how many guys would agree that you deserve to be shot with that bullet? You deserve for that bullet to come and take you out. But Jesus, who is full of grace and full of mercy, because of all, at Calvary, stepped in front of the bullet, took the bullet on your behalf, bore the full weight of the wrath of God. Do me a favor, tell your neighbor, now that's love, that's love, that's love, that's love. That's what it means for Christ to be the propitiation of our sins. It means that he satisfied and appeased the wrath of God on our behalf, so that if I run to him, I no longer stand under wrath, but I stand in grace. And somebody ought to give God praise for grace. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus, that love led you to take the bullets. Thank you, Jesus, that the cross is you jumping in front of what was meant for me. Thank you, Jesus, not just for your coming,
Thank you, Lord God.
but also for your dying. Because you came to die.
Thank you, Lord God.
He is a propitiation. And what we see in Bethlehem over 2,000 years ago is love on this earth coming to life. Now, he had always lived because he's eternally God, but on this earth, Jesus took that first breath. That's love coming to life. Macedonia, I don't know about you, but I'm so glad that I serve a God who will model true love. I serve a God who won't just say I love you, but he will wrap himself in flesh, walk this earth for 33 years, die as a common criminal, rise again to show I love you. What a mighty God we serve. Let's stand to our feet. Let's stand to our feet.